You are at war, and not the kind with bullets or blood, but something much deeper, a war within. Not with others, but with your own mind. A war against the quiet voice inside you that repeats the wounds of the past, echoes the doubts planted by others, and makes you question your worth long after the damage is done. Life has a way of keeping score, but not with noise, not with announcements or applause. It balances the scales in silence. Every act, good or cruel, eventually circles back. And when you truly understand this, you stop searching for justice in the hands of others. You realize that the most powerful form of justice is inner peace. That revenge isn't strength, it's a distraction. And walking away with your dignity is the only strike you ever need to land. But let's be clear, this isn't softness. This isn't about burying your anger under fake smiles or pretending you're not hurt. This is strategic. It's a silent revolt against what broke you, a refusal to let pain define you. And it begins the moment you decide that healing matters more than retaliation. Real strength isn't shown in the courtroom of public opinion. It's shown in the way you live your life, quietly, powerfully, with no need to prove anything. You don't need the world to see someone else fall to feel free. You don't need to wait for karma, because life already takes care of what's been sown, with precision that sometimes cuts deeper than revenge ever could. The problem is, we don't like to wait. We want closure. We want proof. We want those who hurt us to feel what we felt. But that hunger is a trap. While you wait for them to fall, you pause your life. You burn your energy watching the rearview mirror. That kind of waiting isn't passive. It drains you, holds you hostage, and steals your future. Freedom doesn't come when justice finally shows up. It comes when you stop needing it. When you choose to live as if justice already arrived, and you already won. This is not denial. It's the ultimate display of self-respect. It says, I will not spend another day giving my energy to someone who didn't deserve it in the first place. You don't need revenge to reclaim your power. You need focus. Because your focus is your greatest weapon. And wherever you aim it, that's what grows. Aim it at the past, you stay stuck. Aim it at growth, and you build a life that silences every doubt, every insult, every betrayal. This mindset doesn't tell you to forget the wound. It tells you to stop living from it. It doesn't ask you to justify what happened. It teaches you that the most brutal form of accountability is not your anger. It's your evolution. The fact that you didn't stop, that they didn't break you, that your life right now is the verdict. Some people don't deserve your explanation. Some don't even deserve your presence. The most devastating truth you can show someone who doubted you is a life that flourishes without them. And yes, that hurts them more than any words ever could. Part 2. Let go without permission. Letting go isn't about forgetting, and it's definitely not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about making the conscious decision that you're not going to let what happened write your future chapters. Resentment feels powerful at first. It gives you something to hold on to when everything else is slipping away. But over time, it doesn't fuel you. It drains you. It becomes part of how you think, how you speak, how you move. There are emotions that sneak in like guests and end up becoming squatters. They change the way you talk to yourself, cloud the way you see others, and convince you that you're protecting yourself when you're really just stuck. That's what unprocessed resentment does. It settles in so quietly that one day you wake up and it's all you know. You've forgotten who you were before the bitterness moved in. Holding on to pain doesn't make you strong. It makes you heavy. And eventually, you forget what it feels like to walk without it. Some people confuse strength with refusal. They think not forgiving means they're standing up for themselves. But real power comes when you can walk away clean. Not because they deserved peace, but because you did. There's something sobering about realizing that people who hurt you might never apologize. They might never acknowledge what they did, and you might never get the closure you thought you needed, but you don't need their remorse to move on. What you need is to reclaim the part of yourself still living in that moment. You can make peace in silence. You don't need witnesses. You don't need a final conversation. You don't need their understanding. Letting go doesn't always happen with a grand emotional release. Sometimes it happens quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day when you decide, I'm done carrying this. That's when the restoration begins. That's when you stop bleeding energy into a past you can't rewrite. That's when you start seeing the future with clear eyes. You don't let go because you're weak. You let go because your life deserves more than that weight. And the most beautiful part? You don't need to defend your healing to anyone. Your silence will say more than your explanation ever could. Your calm will disturb them more than your rage. And your joy, real, unshakable, hard-won joy, will say everything they refuse to hear. Part 3. The power of quiet transformation. There is strength in not reacting, in not giving someone the satisfaction of knowing they still affect you. Some people feed on your pain. They want to see you rattled, broken, still bleeding. They measure their importance by how deeply they can cut you, and whether or not you flinch. So don't flinch. There is nothing more unsettling to someone who tried to hurt you than watching you live like they never mattered. That's not vengeance. It's clarity. That's not ego. It's evolution. Joy becomes your rebellion. Not the performative kind, but the one rooted in truth. The kind that doesn't need to post about healing or talk about boundaries. It just shows. You smile, not because you're pretending everything's okay, but because you've earned it. You've worked through the darkness. You've sat in silence long enough to find your voice again. People think healing is loud, that you have to scream your transformation. But real healing is quiet. It's seen in how you no longer explain, how you no longer engage in chaos, how you don't waste time trying to convince someone of your worth. When you no longer seek closure from the same door that slammed in your face, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the version of you that used to settle. You become grounded, immovable, and people notice, not because you told them, but because peace like that can't be faked. Don't give explanations to those who ignored your silence. Don't give energy to those who thrived on your exhaustion. The more you explain, the more you feed the story that your healing needs approval. It doesn't. You're allowed to change, to pull away, to protect your peace without warning anyone. Your transformation doesn't need an audience, just your commitment. The most powerful version of you is the one who doesn't react out of habit, doesn't chase out of fear, and doesn't argue for your worth. You just live, intentionally, unapologetically, fully. Part 4. Learn the lesson or repeat the cycle. There are two ways life teaches you: pain or awareness. Pain is what you get when you don't listen the first time, when you ignore the signs, overlook the patterns, and keep trying to rewrite a story that's already finished. You weren't born to repeat history under different names. And yet, if you don't pause and reflect, really reflect, you will. The details might change, but the lesson will stay the same until you finally learn it. Life doesn't punish, it teaches. But if you're not paying attention, that lesson becomes a cycle, and that cycle becomes a prison. Sometimes we fall, not because we were weak, but because we were unwilling to see what needed to change. We trusted too quickly. We tolerated too much. We silenced our instincts because we didn't want the discomfort of confrontation. But growth doesn't come without discomfort. It comes when you finally say, "Never again," and mean it. You can't keep blaming the world if you keep opening the same doors to the same damage. At some point, you have to own the part of you that participated in your own pain. Not with shame, but with honesty. Because if you don't take responsibility for your patterns, no one else will. Change isn't in the apology you want to hear. It's in the boundary you finally set. It's in the no you say when everything inside you used to say yes just to keep the peace. It's in walking away before it costs you your peace, your clarity, your future. And that's how self-respect is built, not in big moments, but in the quiet decision to stop playing a role in your own suffering, to stop negotiating with the parts of you that crave approval more than peace. You are not here to keep learning the same lesson until it breaks you. You're here to evolve. And that evolution begins the moment you stop looking outside for what you can only build within. Here is part 5, final, of the revised script. Part 5. Your peace is the final word. You've been through enough. You've lost time, energy, sleep, replaying the past, questioning your decisions, wondering if you could have done more. But there comes a moment when you stop asking for clarity from the people who gave you confusion. You stop needing peace from those who caused the storm. That moment, when you stop looking back, is when you reclaim your life. Emotional freedom doesn't mean you were never hurt. It means the pain no longer runs your life. It means you no longer wait for apologies, validation, or recognition to move forward. You don't wait for someone to understand what they broke. You choose to rebuild anyway, because your healing was never about them. Some people will never own what they did. Some will never change, but that's not your concern anymore. The power isn't in their apology, it's in your decision to be free. That's what true closure looks like. Not a final conversation, not a dramatic goodbye. Just you, walking away quietly, permanently. Stop checking if they noticed your absence. Stop measuring your worth by their regret. That's still giving your power away. You are not defined by what someone failed to see in you. You are defined by what you now choose to see in yourself, your clarity, your presence, your peace. And your peace doesn't need to be explained. You don't have to justify your distance. You don't owe anyone a speech about your boundaries. There's a maturity that comes when you no longer explain your evolution. You just live it, authentically, fully, without apology. Let your life speak for you. Let your peace say what your anger no longer needs to. Let your stillness speak louder than any confrontation ever could. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not detached. You're discerning. You don't need to yell your worth anymore. Your presence, calm, confident, whole, says everything. This is your quiet revolution, your declaration of power. Not loud, not chaotic, but undeniable. You didn't get revenge, you got freedom. You didn't win the argument. You won yourself. And that is the ultimate victory. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Not for the algorithm, but to remind yourself you're not alone on this path. And if you made it to the end, drop a comment saying, "I choose clarity," so we know you're one of the few walking the quiet, powerful road of self-mastery. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, protect your peace and never explain your growth.